What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Recap Podcast. This is episode 61 or 62 with Pastor James.
What's up, you guys?
Pastor James, you are here, and might I say, once again, we are talking about finances. The finance guy, this is you.
I guess so.
I
do offering every Sunday, so It kind of works. And
yeah, for sure.
Obviously have my own finances. I have to manage my own life, but now in this position here at the church, as pastor, I'm kind of looking over everything. So it's not just the church, it's the camp, it's the daycare. So, I'm managing God's finances.
Right.
And so I've involved a lot of, conversations about it and then also just like staff members. And so anyway, I'm in it a lot.
Right. And what I like, and we've been doing this recently, we've been in this Y series, just kind of like, I think it started with the water baptism. It was just like, it started that Sunday of like, why water baptism? We got family members in here that their child or their aunt or their uncle or somebody in their family's getting baptized. Like, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, besides just the sacrament of it, like, what's the meaning behind it,
Yeah.
And then it kind of, I think the next Sunday was communion. So it's like, why communion?
Yeah.
Then it's baby dedication. Why baby dedication? And it happens to be on these like days like that, and it's, but what's cool, what I like about it is that when Pastor Steph spoke, when Pastor West spoke, when Pastor Bunk spoke, when Pastor Rod spoke, all of them, each one of those things were like, they were, appointed or chose to speak on that topic because it really meant something with them. They had a personal revelation on it.
Right.
I always go back to the, Pastor Steph talking about that water baptism, like when she was like 6.
Big moment for her.
Big moment in her and her whole family, of her, like they're playing baptism, Pastor West felt like that call for communion.
Yeah.
I think Pastor Bunk he had the church family. Church family is what got him in the building. You know what I mean? And then also what he's been able to turn into and then Pastor Rod with the word. And a couple more, obviously, with Pastor Steph for, Mother's Day and the family in general. So for you, when it comes to finances, number one, why did you choose to speak on it? And number two, those might be the same answer, but is it a personal thing for you? Like, when did you have this revelation on finances, and why is it something that you're like, I feel like if I get to pick something to speak on, I'd like to address that?
I mostly because I work with it all the time, and then I also talk to a lot of people that need breakthrough. They need supernatural breakthrough, and there's rules that I live by that I feel like I was taught, and I benefited from them because they're God's way, and it's not really fair to not tell everyone in the church the same things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So people dodge it and avoid it because they don't want to talk about it and they don't want to seem greedy. But I don't know. It's like shortchanging people if you don't bring this up because it's actually part of God's kingdom and he talks about it all the time. In fact, he actually takes money and compares it to God. You can't do it's one or the other. So he almost alludes to if God isn't supreme over this, then money is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's you can't serve both.
Right.
So it actually I actually think it's a bigger deal than we allude to.
Right.
And then a lot of people get pulled into society, the culture, which is real built on to be honest, kind of anti-biblical. It's not save, it's spend. It's not, you know what I'm saying, buy only what you can afford. It's use us to buy. I heard the other day that you can get DoorDash now on credit, which is wild.
That's crazy.
And I saw this meme. It was funny. It's me in my 30s, and it's hey, Dad, I bought a new house.
Yeah.
And it's my kid in their 30s.
Yeah.
And it's hey, Dad, I have hot dog debt. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
No, it is.
So anyway, it gets these people in trouble, and then they end up being they spend their whole life trying to get out of debt, and they're underneath a lender.
Right.
Which again is something I read yesterday, the bar is slave to the lender, and it's hard to make any moves when you're trapped like that.
Yeah.
But for me, really. I didn't have time to tell the story yesterday, but I grew up really poor and my family didn't have anything. And we lived in very rundown trailers my whole life. And then when I was about, we lived in Texas for a little bit. I lived in California some, and then we moved back to Texas. Trailer. Finally, my mom was let's get a house. My dad bought a house from this dude for $13,000, half acre and the house for $13,000. That's crazy cheap.
Yeah.
But the catch was, it was a drug house. And the guy was you can buy the house for $13,000, but you got to get all these drug users out of it. So there's squatters everywhere. So all the windows are busted out. It's stunk really bad. People have been living in there. Even my little brother, there's spray paint all over the walls. he brought my mom like a used syringe. He was like, "Mommy, what is this?" She's like, "Put that down." So anyway, I grew up in a completely different world, and I watched my parents. They were serving at a Baptist church nearby, and they just really got into the Word and began learning about some of these principles, and they began applying it in their lives. And God really turned my family's life around at that time.
Yeah,
and we went from extreme poverty, like food stamp level, to having plenty in the bank.
Yeah.
And my dad had a thriving business and a bunch of trucks and a bunch of employees. And, he brought me in and was like, "Hey, listen, everything's God's and it all comes from him. You need to learn how to live 80-10-10. Like you live off 80% of your income and you take the other 10% and you save it. And then you take the other 10% and you tithe it. You give it to God. You learn how to live that way.
Right.
And God can actually begin to bless your life like he's done mine.
Right.
And I don't know, I was 13, 14 at the time. So it's going to sound weird, but I've been tithing a long time. Not because I'm of a specific church per se. I've tithed at different churches. In fact, this is a weird thought, but the church I used to tithe to when I met Steph doesn't even exist anymore. The people got in the way and they ended up closing. But again, you could be like, well, doesn't that make you mad? Like you tie some of your money there. And I'm like, I believe it's a supernatural process. So when I let go of it, it goes into God's hands. And it'll do exactly what it needs to do. And I don't think you need to get past that. That's the message I was trying to convey this Sunday. Like it's actually a faith activation thing.
Right.
You're like, you study Abraham and you're like, I'm going to give like Abraham did, which is through faith.
Right.
Because the law didn't exist yet. This system didn't exist yet.
Right.
But it actually did exist because it's part of God's like overall construct of humanity.
Yeah.
That we have access to the exact same thing. So it's been a part of my ethos is the word I use, part of how I function since before I even met Steph.
Yeah. And I like that you said, really for people that are so worried about money or they're like really like money's a sensitive topic. I like he kind of even like at the beginning reframes it as like before we even get into money, before we whatever, like think of it as like God is, you're using your faith for God to be able to do something through you. Like this is you're extending your faith so that God can then take that faith, and be able like faith that God can do something through you, And then I like, towards the end, you gave more than just finances, but like other different things that you're stewarding as well. But I want to lean into something that you just said. We kind of talked about it a little bit before the podcast, but like a lot of things that I think you said to set up the message was a lot about addressing like some fear as well.
Yeah.
I think that can be in a lot of ways the opposite of faith. When it comes to money is fear. Why is it so important that you that you lean into faith over that fear side of it for us?
Well, I think I don't really have time to flesh this out, but it's kind of the path that Lot chooses. Lot also is wealthy and came from the same spot Abraham did. But Abraham decided to subscribe to a different kingdom. Yeah. And Lot didn't. He decided to go to Sodom and partake in how they did things because he liked the bright lights and the dancing and the movies and the whatever, the culture. He wanted to be a part of the culture. And so it was a Charles Spurgeon thing I read about like anybody that participates in that culture also has to expect to suffer for it. Yeah. And it's the idea of like, if you're self-made and it's all on you, then that's really heavy. And it's tough being in debt. It's scary. It can make you make decisions from a position of fear. And that actually hinders part of your growth. It hinders part of your call, to be honest. Yeah. And so there's an aspect of like this release of faith and consent when you go like, I'm going to let God take care of that part. Yeah. So that I'm never hindered by the fear of that. And it works. Yeah, it works. If you'll give it to him, and he says, "Test me in this." Yeah, like my system works, but I know that it's going to sound the opposite of man's. Right, man's is going to say like, keep every penny for yourself. Yeah, and don't let any of it go. And do everything first, and do the God thing last. Yeah, and you can do that. It's not like he's going to strike you down, but he's just saying that method is heavy. Yeah. And if you'll give it to me, I will give you blessings. There's not room enough to receive it. And the older I get, the more I feel like, how does God define blessings? I think it could be money, but I think sometimes it's like I'm going to give you the faith to be able to navigate storms.
Yeah.
Because the storms like are not going away. There's going to be ups and downs your whole life.
Right.
Economies are going to be goofy. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be seasons where you have a job, seasons where you don't.
Right.
There's going to be times where like you come into money and times where you have none.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, but I'm going to take care of you the whole time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it just comes back to like trusting him with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know you kind of went into like more of the story part of, Abraham and being able to pull the different like analogies and pieces to learn from. Before that, you like hit these like, I would say just straight up truths, these biblical financial truth statements.
Yeah.
You have like a couple that you did before you really went into the story. Why did you feel like it was necessary to like go through and like hit those pieces before going into and like giving like this bigger, broader idea?
Well, because those are helpful.
Yeah.
And I think there's we're talking about why give. So it's like deep down in the roots.
Yeah.
There are some more surface level things that you can address that are obvious.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was I spoke to a couple right after the service, and I didn't have time to go into this either, but this is very practical. But in most relationships, there's a spender and a saver.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you take that proverb I read about the ant that says you have to have margin.
Right.
Not only do you have to have margin, that's actually where God commands the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go read Malachi, it says it's on the storehouse that he commands the blessing. That's like the whole revelation Pastor Al got.
Mm-hmm.
But, so for my savers out there, shout out. I'm also a saver.
And for those spenders out there, shout out.
Listen, the truth is you need both.
Yeah.
Okay. But both balance each other out.
Yeah.
And there's actually biblical teachings for both. One is, hey, all my savers out there, you're needed. You need to save so that you can have money. When it's time to move, you can move.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times where the blessing actually lies.
Yeah.
In other words, God might be bringing something to your doorstep, an opportunity, an investment, something you can do. But if you don't have any margin, you actually can't show up and be a part of it.
Yeah.
So you miss the blessing.
Right.
A lot of times. Again, not always, but a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you need margin, and the American culture is training you to not only not have margin, not even neutrality, they're teaching you to spend next month's margin. So the whole culture is actually going the opposite of how God says to do it. God's like, slow down, adjust your lifestyle, live with margin, so that when the blessing comes through, you can move.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of that, like, why does God bless you so that you can stockpile money like the dragon and the hobbit? No. It's so that you can be a blessing.
Yeah.
So all my savers out there, you got to remember that. So it's not that you never spend. It's like God is trying to get things through you. Don't just stockpile money and never make any moves.
Yeah.
But for the spenders out there, like you gotta realize that you need both.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you can get so far ahead of yourself with like, well, I'm just trying to bless people. I'm just trying to make moves, that you end up being in debt. And now you actually lose your freedom. So yeah, I know that you're a spender and I know that you want to bless people, but if you don't consider the ant, and winter comes, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like for the spenders, you need to learn how to like tell yourself no and live with margin. You know what I mean? And then for the margin, for the savers, you got to understand that you were blessed to be a blessing. So you got to let that flow through you. And if you could get on the same page in your marriage, it could be a powerful thing, and God can really move through your family.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the because I think margin too, like can that I guess it can go for both too. Like margin can look whatever if you are in the spender category or in the saver category too. You know what I mean? Like having margin to do the thing that you are not as comfortable with or not as familiar with. The next thing you say is that you talk about the love of money, right? The love of money, and there's like that famous quote is like people, and they often misquote it, that money is the root of all evil. But that's not the full thing. It's for the love of money is the root of all evil. Why is that like a major difference?
Well, because God cares about your heart more than anything.
Yeah.
Possessions are going to come and go. When Jesus says, like, choose who you're going to serve, because I'm really worried about your heart. That's what he's always worried about. So I think God could make you wealthy, but he's going to probably worry about your heart. And I know there's times where if God would have made me wealthy, I would have walked further from him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying he didn't intentionally not make me wealthy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's a part of me that's glad I didn't become a millionaire at 20, because I probably wallowed somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And who knows, I would have already blown my life up and destroyed it.
Right.
It's a very good chance. I'm not saying for sure. I'm just saying. You just never know.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that Scripture is always after, and God's always addressing, and Jesus is always kind of trying to pry and go like, I care about your heart. And because that's actually what protects you. That's where the issues of life flow. And be careful, because you can't even know it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's deceitful in all its ways. In other words, your emotions can like lie to you. So you have to like trust me with your heart. And you know, David is notorious for that.
Right.
He's this second most written about character, I think, in the Bible, aside from Jesus. You have to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure he's like the second most amount of data written on him. And it's, in my opinion, it's because he had a heart after God's. He kept going like, God, my heart is off. Help me see how you see.
Right.
Make my heart like yours, because I know you have my best intentions at heart. And if I shouldn't receive this right now, then I don't want it. If you don't think it's good for me, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the scripture said that, like, only God really knows the heart. So anyway, back to the love of money thing. Like, when you begin to love it, you begin to serve it.
Right.
And so money is a good servant, terrible master.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So money's not bad. You need it to do stuff. It can buy you a measure of independence, a measure of freedom. It does solve some of your problems. But just there's a line that I think people cross when they begin to serve it and they begin to love it. And it's all they talk about. It's all they care about.
Right.
And they wrap up their significance in it and how important they are. Ego and pride and all that. And, and it's fickle, right? Like, I mean, there's times where you're up, times where you're down. Again, jobs change, economy changes. It can be a rough ride if that's your God.
Right.
And so I really view things like tithing and giving as God being like, I'm actually trying to protect you.
Right.
And if you'll give this aspect to me, I'll take care of you and I'll make sure you have what you need when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I like that, you know, the piece of the heart being, you know, that other classic, you know, phrase. It's so funny how many like, you know, phrases that we say that end up being like proverbs from the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of times we use them in culture. You know, like, oh, these are good wisdom
like
pieces. Yes, and you're like, oh, that's actually, of course, there's so much richness in that. You know, it's from the Word of God, and I think another one of those is like, you know, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. You know, and now they've got apps. You know, you can use like Rocket Money or whatever it is to like go see where all of your spending is, and I mean, really, it'll show you, you know, what you value the most. And I think that's a piece that you lean into on Sunday as well, as like just like. That's why God cares so much, because he really cares about your heart. Like you're saying, he really cares about where your heart is, because a lot of times you'll just keep investing into what you actually love and care about. So I like how you then take that to go into, that's why we give the first and the best.
Yeah.
You know,
so that first fruits
right.
teaching is like tithing.
Right.
Same principle, but it's just sort of like, I mean, it's not a rule. It's a system that you can partake in. And I've gone like, well, for me, that's an easy system. I'll just take a tenth of whatever I'm doing, and I'll just consecrate it and say, this is the Lord's. And if he could get 1,000 to me, and I could tithe on 1,000, which the first time I did that, that's a lot. It's like $100.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay. Well, what if you show God that you can be trusted with that? So now he can get you 10,000. You know what I'm saying? Now can you write $1,000 check? Like, all right, now you really got to believe it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Because it's tough. That's a lot. Yeah. But it's like, well, what if you can get that right and show God that you're faithful in little, and he can then make you know that you're faithful in much. Right. And get 100,000. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I've had, you know, I'm grateful for the people that have supported this church over the years, the tithers that are committed. They live by this, you know, and there's been huge amounts of people that have tithed off $3 million. I mean, you got to have a deep revelation that everything you have comes from God. And when you get that, it's easy. Yeah. But if you're battling that, it's very hard.
Yeah. And so when you were talking about, finances and the pieces of like your treasure, and the treasure on earth versus heaven, you kind of go into like this piece of the finances. You kind of talk about church ministry and the Levitical priesthood for a second,
Right.
Well, how does it take you there? I know that kind of goes from the idea of tithe and the tenth, like why is it important for us as, somebody who doesn't give, right? Why was it important for you to pull back the curtain? I'm like, by the way, this is how it works when you do give.
Because, there's a measure of that. That is how churches are supported.
Yeah.
I mean, especially an independent church like this one, that's an independent creative expression of worship.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. It's not a part of the denomination per se.
Yeah.
We believe in direct relationship with your creator.
Yeah.
That's sort of outside the box a little bit from some denominations. It depends. But yeah, we believe in Jesus alone being the way, not works, but through faith.
Yeah.
So faith built this.
Right.
But to sustain that expression, it takes resources, right? We still live in a worldly kingdom that has bills, electricity, gas, water.
Yeah.
And we have people's salaries that work in the ministry full time. I mean, that's what they do. And, it's sad, but historically, pastors don't make that much. That's kind of a well-known thing, typically speaking. I know there's exploitation out there, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But typically speaking, there's a lot of pastors out there that work two jobs. They work in the ministry, but they also have like a side gig or something.
Right.
I even did that for years. I did side gig for 10 years, just so I could have enough, whatever. But anyway, the point is, that's actually how it was set up originally in the tribes.
Yeah.
There was 12 tribes. One of them was set apart. And it was the priesthood, and that was the line of Moses and Aaron. And God was like, listen, the rest of you guys, I want you to go get regular jobs, and I want you to give a tenth of everything you make to the priesthood so that they can survive and they can eat. They need to have food in their house.
Yeah.
And now they did it differently back then. Obviously, there wasn't the American dollar. They did this with the resources, period. Just in general.
Yeah.
Right? So any resources you acquire, that could be wheat, cattle.
Right.
It could also be gold, jewelry, silver, whatever. And people will learn this aspect of consecration to support their brothers, basically.
Right.
That was the gist. And there's a measure of that the church still survives that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know there's other avenues and stuff, but generally speaking, that's how most ministries function.
Yeah.
So both are true. And it's good to sort of talk about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because we do need help.
Yeah.
That is how we survive. And we do calibrate and adjust staffing and endeavors.
Yeah.
Like VBS coming up, for example.
Right.
Is something that our church gets behind and funds.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
But if they decide we're not going to fund it, then we don't get to do it.
Right.
So that involvement from the actual congregation itself really dictates a lot of our outreach effectiveness. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And that's good. It's supposed to be that way. It's not bad. It's just important, I think, to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because people can think, I don't know. Sometimes people don't even think about it at all.
Yeah, for sure. I think filling in the gaps is always good, especially with something that people are so sensitive to about giving money, and also just the stigma in general, just church, you always say too, even offering they just need my money. Well, hold up for a second. I think it's good to at least, when initial idea of I'm giving this, I'd like to know where it's going. You know what I'm saying? Because that in one hand,
I view that's a good one.
Yeah.
Just to address that.
Yeah.
I view tithing is how it's broken down in Hebrews 7. And I didn't get a chance to read it, but this is New Testament. And the author is basically saying, you're giving tithes in the exact same way that Abraham did, long before it was even a law. You're giving it through faith because you want to interact with God himself. You want God himself over your money. So everybody has access to this, by the way, because the thing that qualifies you is your faith. That's how you're made righteous.
Yeah.
And Jesus made a way for you to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't even need to read the rules to you. The only thing you need to know is by faith you can participate in this.
Yeah.
Now, we can also talk about the rules and the structure and all that. But the truth is, I can give you the Cliff Notes version. You can actually just do what Abraham did and believe in your actual spirit.
Yeah.
And God can flow through your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think there is definitely two pieces of it. The pieces, I'd like to know where this is going for sure. But also, do you have faith in God? It's kind of that thing of once I let it go, it's up to him.
And that gets addressed in Hebrews. It says, you give through mortal hands, but it's to a supernatural God.
Yeah.
So mortal hands receive it, sure,
Yeah.
but that's not really the idea. So anyway, I view tithing like that. I view tithing like, I don't know, I tithe to the church, and what happens after that is up to God.
Uh-huh.
And then offering's a little different. Offering is when you feel a measure of conviction about something, whatever it is. You feel like there's a certain project that I just feel led to be a part of financially.
Sometimes, we'll give opportunities like the impact offering.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So it's like, hey, listen, go to the Lord, pray about this. If you feel conviction, be a part of it. And sometimes people want to be a part of something and they can't give their time or their skill per se, but they can give their treasure.
Yeah.
And this is addressed in the New Testament all the time, time, talent, and treasure. And sometimes you can't give the other two.
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can go work and contribute funds.
Yeah.
That's my way of playing a role in this.
Yeah, I like it. I think sometimes, I've definitely heard you just at us in conversation talk about that. I think that you've shared that some people, that's their gifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they are able to aid whatever it is, project, the body, the church in general through finances. Certain people have that financial gifting,
Yes. Some people seem like they have a literal anointing for wealth. And the scriptures say that gifts come without repentance. Yeah. So there's people out there in the secular world that are good at making money, and they don't even necessarily they don't tip their hat to God at all.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the gift is revoked. They may still be flowing in that gift.
Yeah.
And, I read that line from Moses in Deuteronomy saying, God is actually the one that gives you the ability to make wealth, which really, if you think about it, is really the thing to pray for. If you really feel like your call is to be wealthy, pray that God gives you creative ideas, anointing, to be able to do that. Because, would you rather give me give you $1 million or the knowledge to make millions of dollars? You know what I'm saying? That's actually more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Deuteronomy 8:18, that verse is drilled in my brain. My old kids church, they would just say that over and over. God, do not forget God because He gives you the power to obtain wealth. And these different things. And it's that's just. I'm glad that that scripture was so drilled in my brain, because it kind of goes to that thing that you're saying about the self-made versus God-made too. And I heard you get a lot of when you're on stage saying that piece of because if you're self-made, well, that's a lot of pressure, know, because you believe that you did this. Well, that means that it's on your back, and you ain't as reliable as you think that you are in situations.
It's not like that. It's you're not as in control as you think. I mean, the world is strange and it's moving and evolving all the time. Yeah. And, the scriptures say all the time, it doesn't say God's going to spare you from every storm. Yeah. It says He'll give you the faith to get through it and to navigate it and come out on top and take something that the enemy meant for evil and work it out for good. Yeah. So it's that better prayer is, God, give me the fortitude to make it through these ups and downs and to keep my faith is what keeps me floating on the top, so I never sink. Yeah. And I know you're going to see me through it. You're going to make a way where there's no way. And that's really more, again, the longer I live, the more I see this playing out in real time in people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah. I you talk for a second about seed sown, people that are able to have that, either that gift or that calling on their life to give. And I do feel correct me if I'm wrong, but in a way that is everybody's calling at some point in their life is to be able to give, to others, to different things. And how awesome is it to be in a position where you can do that as well, too?
100%. I shout out to Grandmaster Garza. So I'm in service yesterday. I ran out of time, or I would have brought this up. But he has a really cool teaching about God calls you to be a river, not a pond. And if water flows to a pond and it stops, it gets stagnant. Ponds can be dangerous to swim in sometimes. But if a river's flowing all the time and it's fresh water, you can drink it. And so symbolically, it's the same concept. Don't ever forget that you're blessed to be a blessing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Let that flow through you. And I really believe that when God can flow through you, He will flow to you.
AKA, bless around and find out.
I like that.
That's pretty good for that on a t-shirt. I actually thought of that on Sunday. I texted Pastor Seth. I was I'm going to say this for the podcast, but I feel like James would say bless around and find out.
That's funny.
But anyways, yes, that idea of being able to continue to, like you said, or we are flowing like a river, not becoming stagnant in that. Or, God can give all those things to you, like don't keep it for yourself, keep the flow going, because that's how, his kingdom is working. It's not just all just to give to this one person so they could be the greatest in the world, to be able to get it through. But now I feel like, going into all those different pieces of information, and biblical financial truths, kind of get into this Abraham story. I feel like off rip, it doesn't seem like a story about finances, story about giving, or things like that. Like when you were reading it, how did you get the revelation of like, oh snap, this is actually a really good, symbolism for, giving and tithing, things like that?
I would say because of faith. And really lately, I could sit down and you could take courses and classes about what to do with money and how to do this and how to do that. But really at its root, it comes from like you either believe God is in charge and that he's getting things to you, and you trust it or you don't. It's almost like saying like you can't serve God and money at the same time. You believe one or the other. And if you'll consent in your heart and go like, all right, I've been hearing it, but actually I believe it now.
Yeah.
I actually do think that that's true.
Yeah.
Then things like giving becomes easy.
Yeah.
And you're not surprised when God shows up.
Yeah.
You're not surprised when he blesses you, and you're not living in fear anymore about your money. It's like he'll take all the fear away from you.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what I was trying to point out. I think some people, when you get into like, what do you call it? Lessons or studies about finances online. A lot of people like argue about it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, tithing was a law and the tribes had to do it or they're going to be in trouble. And that's what if you read the whole thing in Malachi, he's calling them out for robbing God.
Yeah.
He's like, you have robbed God. And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
We haven't robbed. What do you mean? That's quite the thing to say. And the prophets, Malachi says, how have we robbed God? And he's like, through your tithes and offerings.
Yeah.
You need to bring the full thing into his house. And so people use that sometimes in modern day to like leverage that and threaten people.
Right.
So then everybody else on the other side claps back with like, no, that's not a law anymore. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a point of contention. I was trying to point out like in the same way that we come to Christ and we are able to find salvation through faith and faith alone, faith in Jesus and what he did on the cross.
Yeah.
Is what sanctifies you and made you righteous under the Father.
Yeah.
He makes you right under the Father. He paid the cost for that.
Yeah.
Well, the exact same way that works, almost like magic, a free gift, freely given.
Yeah.
You can apply this exact same principle to giving.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to point out. Like, it's not that all these other lessons aren't good. They are.
Yeah.
But if you don't have this core aspect, which is the faith element, and you mix faith with that seed, then it's not as powerful. Yeah. And what I really want is for the people in the church to come back and have crazy testimonies of God showing up in their life. Yeah. God opening up windows and blessing them. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the, just strictly, it is just such a faith thing, and it's the trust. I know you always, speak on things like, can you trust God with your significance? But like, can you trust God with something like your finances? Can you trust God with what you're giving him, and we hold it so tightly. I think that's why there's so many different proverbs on it. There's so many different messages on it. There's so many different, whatever it is, because we do hold something like that. There's a lot of offense to it and different things, because it is scary when we make it the center of our universe, So I think I think the two main lessons in really what you're preaching is that, like, don't let it be the center of your universe, and also be able to trust God with it and have that faith, because you will have all these amazing testimonies. And I think that, of course, I really like how, the Bible is so timeless, and you kind of opening up that, like, things change, the economy changes, situation changes. If this was all before even this currency, the currency that Jesus was talking about doesn't exist anymore. I'm talking about, but like the core principles that he is speaking on is a timeless message.
They're part of the fabric of creation itself. Yeah. And God is saying, like, I created. There's a part where Moses, he tells Moses to go talk to Pharaoh. Moses, like, I'm not good at talking. Yeah. Not only am I not good at talking, they're not going to listen to me. Yeah. And God, like, checks it. He's like, who made man's mouth? Yeah. Who made the mute, the seeing, and the blind? Did not I? Yeah. Now go. Yeah. And he's like, don't worry. Yeah. I've already trained up you don't even know, but your brother's on his way. Yeah. Your brother's good at speaking. I already got him on the squad.
Yeah.
He's pulling up right now.
Yeah.
You have got to have faith that I'm going to cover it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're talking about somebody who created men who created money.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. So, and I just love that too. Also, I guess just because the Marvel universe, I just love hearing things that are outside of space and time. It just makes me be like, so it's sick.
Well, that's really what Melchizedek is, right? So like it doesn't give a lot of details. Later in Hebrews it does.
Yeah.
But I just ran out of time.
Yeah.
But it talks about him being a symbolic version of Christ, the King of Salem, which is short for Jerusalem, which is the King of Peace. He brings out bread and wine. These are all symbolic. So Abraham's faith, this is wild. But think about this. His faith, not only like he got a futuristic glimpse of the kingdom that was to come that hadn't even taken place yet. So you could almost think of it in a way like Abraham is going into the future covenant and pulling it into his modern day before it's even happened.
Yeah.
Because of his faith.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing. So you think same thing with David. When David put up the tabernacle, it was up for 33 years. And he was able to set the Ark of the Covenant out in the open. And everybody could walk up and praise it. He was reaching into the future, pulling Christ into his timeline.
Yeah.
And having access to that covenant.
Yeah.
So same thing. Abraham is pulling that into his timeline right there.
Right.
And then Melchizedek in that story is very brief, and then he disappears.
Yeah.
And it didn't say he vanishes.
Yeah.
I was adding the portal thing for drama. Yeah. But he's not in the story anymore.
Yeah.
And then it says, but there's going to be one day, one like him of the order of Melchizedek will come. He'll be not only a priest, but also a king.
Yeah.
And he'll hold open the gate forever for us to be able to give through mortal hands to the Heavenly Father. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that really to me is core. It's as core as salvation itself.
Yeah.
Where it is not done through works, but through faith alone.
I love that. I mean, I think it's sick that, first of all, that this person can just come out of nowhere and like be able to also, I mean, that this is a symbolism, symbolic version of Jesus, this king priest. Abraham's faith can be able to even bring that in. But also like is what was cool about it, I think ties this message of the communion thing too, is I think what Pastor West he spoke on Melchizedek, and that's like the first time bread and wine ever was like in this exchange like communion before as well.
Yeah, it's like again, he's like pulling something that hasn't even happened yet into his timeline, which is really cool.
Crazy.
And then immediately after, the king of Sodom doesn't even address Melchizedek.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's one of those times in the movies where everything freezes.
Yeah.
And Abraham has this moment. And one of the things I pointed out was that he blessed him. And I was trying to point out to everybody, like, you have to see that God's already blessing you right now, just by giving you breath and sight, the ability to see, having a family, having health, having whatever. Like, learn how to see that first and then give from that. Yeah. That's helpful. Anyway, he blesses Abraham, and then Abraham gives a tenth of everything he has just out of that revelation of that. In other words, when you have the revelation, it's not hard to give. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. You're just like, this is the least I can do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes it very easy. And Abraham was immediately after the interaction, the king of Sodom steps up and he's like, thanks for saving me. Yeah. Thanks for getting back my women and my children and all my stuff. And he's like, in fact, you can actually have it. Yeah. And Abraham's like, no, I don't want to take it because there may be a chance that people say it was because of you that I was made wealthy, and I don't want that to be the story. The truth is God gave me that victory. Yeah. And all this stuff. So and easily as he can get it to me, he could get it to me again. I'm not worried about it. Yeah. So you keep it. Yeah. In fact, give it to the boys that helped me. Yeah. Let my men eat for today and I'm going to head back home. Yeah. I mean, it's really just walking around like this too, letting it be able to, that river and pond thing that you mentioned too, it's like, we just can't be too close-handed about these things. We have to be able to be open-handed and just believe in what God can. And I love what you said too. It's not just addition; it's the multiplication that God is about. Being able to multiply that. And that's really like where I wanted to end. Like there's so much more God can do when you put faith on it. Yeah. And if you think about seed, if you're carrying like your tithe, let's say, and you bring it into the storehouse symbolically, and you set that. Let's say it's $100 or whatever. Yeah. And you pair your faith with that. Yeah. That's when you start talking fishes and loaves. Yeah. And Jesus can take just a few fish, just a few pieces of bread, and feed 5,000 people with it. And he could do the same thing in your life. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I made you a title graphic slide to say during the service. You never said your title. So at least we'll say it now. Title is Faith Plus Giving.
Yes.
That was the title. Faith plus giving equals what?
I don't know. Blessings probably is the best word, blessing.
Yeah.
And again, just keeping open hands with God's interpretation of blessing.
Yeah.
Remember, you read the book of Ecclesiastes, and he's like, gold actually is not, it's vanity.
Yeah.
The real blessing is being able to like get up and clean your house and shut the windows. And, like,
Yeah, you brought up the kids at the end. Why did you do that?
Blessing, because in the very next chapter, God, I view that whole, he tells Abraham you're going to be blessed, and then Abraham immediately comes into a famine.
Yeah.
And I feel like this happens to church people all the time. You know, they hear like, oh, God's called you, he's going to bless your life. And then you like find yourself like in a warehouse job driving a forklift. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't mean that you're off course. It doesn't mean that it's bad. You've allowed your interpretation of blessings to get in the way.
Yeah.
Trust, right? Anyway, he doesn't. He goes to Egypt and lies about Sarah and gets caught and gets ejected. So it's almost like he chose his own way. He panicked. He did. He panicked.
Yeah.
It happens to a lot of us.
Panic move.
Yeah, you make a panic move and you're like, I'm gonna think about myself instead this time.
Clearly God left me. I gotta get my hands on the wheel.
Yeah, so that fear sets in and you begin thinking about survival and you just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And in the process, he gets busted and kicked out. And so I think he learned his lesson. I think when he came back, he renewed his covenant with God. He was like, no, from now on, I've made a covenant with Yahweh, is what he tells the king of Sodom. He says, no, I've made a covenant with Yahweh. And I've decided that I'm going to trust him. So actually, I'll pass on your money. Thank you. And I think right after that, when he gets a revelation of that, that's when God begins to flow through his life and he gives him an heir.
Yeah.
And that's huge because he's supposed to be the father of many nations. Right. How's he going to do that?
He's the father of none. Yeah.
He's the father of none. Oh, correct.
Yeah.
So God gives him what I would consider a massive blessing, which is a son to push his lineage forward so that he can be that father.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm not saying he had to get this revelation first, but it would surprise me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for sharing, Pastor James. I always love it when you're able to, share even more of an extension on giving and tithing outside of just the time that we do it in service every single week. So thanks for sharing with us. Any other last charging pieces just for people with finances or anything like that?
No, just God favors obedience. And so I think just starting, even if it's small, God doesn't care about the amount. He cares about the heart behind it. So I think if your heart's good, it doesn't matter if you start small. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, awesome. See you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
See you.
If you want to check out full messages, you can find us at LS Church on all podcast platforms. And you can watch full services with worship at LS Church Alvin on YouTube.